What does Juliette find in this new silo?
Will Billings continue his alliance with Knox's rebellion?
What is Bernard up to?
And where will Sims's loyalties fall?
Venture underground with Red and Red Reel Reviews as we dig up the mysteries of Apple TV's Silo, Season 2.
Ahoy, ladies! Didn't see you there. Would you guys like to set sail on this ocean of flavor?
Randall, look at eye contact. You're gonna be cool, right?
Oh, baby, I'm as cool as the other side of the pillow.
Staring at this board for days.
When you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die.
Act. Bears eat beets.
My brain is on fire. I'm dying.
I am the one who knocks.
Bears. Beets. Battlestar Galactica.
When they say 2% milk, I don't know what the other 98% is.
It's hard to believe we're even the same species.
You know nothing, Jon Snow.
Oh my god. The microchip has been compromised.
Dracarys.
And welcome back to Red and Red Reel Reviews. So, we didn't cover season 1 of this show, but we did have to watch it. I don't know if you watched it when the first season came out, or if you watched it recently like I did. But regardless, we had to watch the first season. Well, I had to watch the first season before we started the second season.
Yeah, I was on top of this when it first dropped, and it wasn't that long ago, but the amount of stuff we've watched in between, I'm definitely a little jealous because I'm a little fuzzy on things where you've got a fresh perspective from the first season.
Yeah, and I think too, I mean, obviously the natural thing is to compare the two. So had a lot of that, because I watched season 1 a couple episodes before I watched a couple weeks before I watched season 2. I had that clear-cut comparison in my mind of like the pacing and things like that. So I mean, we'll talk about the events of season 2 and kind of, talk about it in comparison to season 1 as we go along a little bit. But when it first started off, where did you kind of expect the story to go in season 2?
I feel like I have a memory of the final shot being Juliette after she goes up over the ridge, and I felt like I had a distinct memory of this green vegetative type of landscape, which obviously that's not, when season 2 starts, she's walking through the arid desert before she finds the new silo. So I don't know if I'm just misremembering that or if it was a lapse in the story.
No, I think you're thinking of what they actually see through the mask. Mm-hmm. Right? Don't they actually see?
There was some video,
right?
Falsehood fed
yes.
into the masks at one point, yeah. Which I think was the same video that I had completely forgotten about, but was referenced later on in season 2. That like, oh yeah, I saw the green and blue picture when they reset everything.
And that's the video that the sheriff's wife got. She was the one that's played by Rashida Jones in the first season. She saw this video that was kind of leaked. It was on that relic of, it's like some sort of drive of all this information, and it was people's mask videos, and it was people seeing, oh my God, there really is a beautiful scene out there, So that was like this big lie that they were hiding from everybody.
Every time I hear the word mask, it's got a different context in the last few years. Anyway, I'm glad I'm not crazy, because I thought I remembered Rashida Jones from this first season, and that was actually one thing that I was hoping there was some kind of resolution from, because in season 1 you kind of have this feeling like that there is something of a shroud of dishonesty with the silo, and I was kind of hoping that as Juliet went out, the original sheriff and his wife would come back, or she would find them somewhere.
I was half expecting that too, and that's what I was wondering is, are we going to see them again, or were they just, just in the first season? Did they really die, or what happened to them? And that's what I was sort of expecting to see, but also the fact that Juliette kind of went over the hill, I was expecting to, for her to see what life was like outside of her silo, but I wasn't really sure what that would look like.
Yeah. Was it going to be like a big oasis? Like it's just kind of like the silo is just kind of like in this hole, and it's kind of like the walls of a crater, and you go up, and it's completely normal outside.
Yeah, because in the season finale for season one, that's what we saw, right? Didn't we see that there were other silos?
There was something out there. I feel like there was just like one shot, and of course it was been over a
Yes.
year since I saw it. But it was like just kind of one broad shot. But I remember some other stuff out there.
Yeah, I think it was like a wide shot, and it was just kind of, so we were like, whoa,
Yeah.
just the idea that there are other ones besides hers. So yeah, I think I expected that to kind of be going forward, maybe what we would see. Obviously, we knew that Juliette was alive, so it's just like, what would she find when she goes over the hill, basically?
The other thing I was wondering is as she progressed farther into the world outside the silo, I was wondering if it was going to be whatever's out there in just in the environment, if it was going to be a continued exposure thing, where like
Mm,
okay, she goes out there and it may be a lot of pomp and circumstance as far as the danger out there, but if she's out there for days at a time, eventually it'll just build up, build up, build up, and then she'll be dead. That was the other thing I kind of wondered.
well, yeah, you're not really sure whether there's any merit to, like, oh, you can't go outside. You wonder if the silo or the founders or whoever have fooled everyone into saying, oh, you can't go outside for this reason. Like, is it really harmful? Is it really going to kill you? Or do they not want them to go out for some other reason? So you're kind of questioning whether there's any accuracy as to if she's walking around, if she's going to die.
Yeah, and I kind of even before it got to that point, transitioning from season one, I kind of felt like that was probably what they were doing because I got the feeling of the silo being a synonym to control that the governing body wants over the populace. Like we don't like it. There may be the danger may be out there, but not of a high risk. There may be no danger at all, but we don't want the people to know that because we want them living in subservience.
Exactly. So you're questioning, like, whether it's a real concern of the government or the people in charge, or whether it's just fluff that they've fooled people
Yeah.
of. And I mean, I was also questioning the fact that Juliet was alive, and she was, we saw that like wide shot of other silos. So the assumption is that she's gonna encounter other people, right? She can't be the only person ever that's
Yeah.
living out there. So you're thinking, okay, maybe we'll see some new cast members. Maybe we'll see inside at least one or multiple silos, because in the beginning of the second season we saw that rebellion unfolding, right? There was a little kid, Timmy or something, that was running along, and then it showed a rebellion taking place. All these people go outside and die,
Hmm.
basically. So then I guess we kind of find out that there maybe is some truth to going outside and dying.
Yeah. Yeah, there's something out there. It's just we yet to see what the extent of that danger is.
Yes. And so, I mean, we didn't really get a whole nother cast. Most of the season took place in Juliet's silo. But that being said, we did get a few new characters. So, not, huge parts necessarily, but a few people I recognized that were new faces in this season we have a couple Succession alums. And then we have a couple well-known actors, that have worked for a long time, but it's like you have a hard time figuring out what they were actually from. So I just wanted to start off with his role because it was a pretty small one. You kind of blink and you miss it. It was from the last episode of the season where they do this kind of flashback in the last 5 or 10 minutes of the episode. And it's a flashback to the before times. It's in DC. You see like a bustling city. You see, I think, the Capitol building in the distance. And there's this guy that's sitting down at a booth, and it looks like he's going on a date, right? So come to find out, he's a congressman from Georgia. He has this whole exchange with, he thinks it's a date, but unbeknownst to him, it's a reporter that wanted to talk to him about something. So I knew I recognized him right away, and I was like, what do I know this guy from? And so I looked up the actor's name is Ashley Zuckerman, and it is Shiv from Succession. It's her ex Nate that she was like on and off with and like cheating on with Tom behind his back.
Yeah.
He's the Georgian congressman at the very end. So yeah, that was interesting that he just made that little appearance at the end. So we might see more of him coming up, but he was a kind of a familiar face that was new.
I knew I recognized him, but I knew that I would have had to dig so deep on IMDb and the cast to find him. I was like,
Yeah.
I know his face, but I don't want to put in energy to find the actor's name and figure out. But his face was so familiar that even if it wasn't from Succession, I knew it was from something. So I think I'm gonna look up other things that I might recognize him from because he has kind of a working actor's face. Like I've seen him in 2 or 3 different things, I feel like.
I think he's been in other stuff, and I can't remember. But fun fact, IMDb, they sort the cast by number of episodes. Like ascending? No, descending.
Scroll all the way. Super scroll.
No, it actually, it wasn't, it did say 2 episodes, though, which I was a little confused by.
That I don't remember.
Did
him
they
from
have
any
another
other point in the
flashback?
season.
I don't know. Regardless, so another famous face, and I knew exactly the moment I saw him. It took me a second to come up in my mind with the actor's name, and I was like, that's Steve Zahn, I'm pretty sure. Steve Zahn. So yeah, he's one of those actors where you're like, this guy looks so familiar, and you feel like you've seen him in everything, but you can't come up with one thing he was in. So I was having a hard time. Like, I recognized him, and even I looked at his filmography, and I was like, okay, he was on White Lotus. I think the first season of White Lotus, which was 2-3 years ago. Then there's this movie called Sahara, which came out in like 2005, 2006, which is like prime video time or video store time for me. What it was called video time, which is crazy. But yeah, he has a very lengthy filmography. I thought for some reason that he was in a movie with Bill Murray, but I guess that wasn't him. Like The Life Aquatic. Have you ever seen that movie?
That's so funny. Yes, I did, and I thought the same thing because
So who is that actor that we're confusing him with? I can't.
Maybe you know what it is. Maybe it's the title because I think it's The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou.
It is.
So
That's
maybe it's the title that just sounds. Like
no, I swear that I don't want to say he plays the same character in a few movies, but he kind of plays that like goofy, like
they're goofy.
You know what I mean? Like kind of a like I don't want to say it in a mean way, but like kind of a fuck up. Like,
he's a less verbose Jack Black.
Yeah, I could see that. Like he's kind of goofy, but he's not like obnoxious or like theatrical with his face. Like he's not so animated.
Yeah. Actually, that's funny because I find him very animated.
Oh, you think so? Well, I mean, I did think he did a good job. Like I feel like I've seen him in things that were more comedy based, or maybe a little bit of drama, but I thought he did the serious acting pretty well.
Sahara's the only thing I knew him from, and I swear that was a comedy.
Yeah, it was a
I
comedy.
thought that was a comedy. Yeah, with Matthew McConaughey. Um,
Oh, that's who the main person was.
yeah,
Okay.
and I was like, I knew he was from that, but I swear, like, he was. I swear I'd seen him in other stuff, and I'm going through the filmography, and I'm like, I don't recognize
At,
anything from this list.
that's
I don't know.
exactly how I felt.
I don't know if I was. I don't know if my brain kind of like missed him and Alan Tudyk together. Like, it's like you've never seen Steve Zahn and Alec Tudyk in the same place.
I'm going to have to go back and look at the Life Aquatic cast because I swear he was in that movie. So I don't know who I'm confusing him with in my brain. Is there some other guy with like kind of blonde hair, like similar, goofy? There's got to be.
Funny that I was thinking of the same movie, and I was so surprised that I didn't see it in his list.
Yes, that's exactly what happened to me. Oh, great minds. So these aren't new characters, but I just wanted to mention them, seeing as we did not cover the first season on this show. And, so we have a couple of alums of shows that we would talk about. So one of them is Game of Thrones, the other is Succession. And then I guess another one would be Ted Lasso. But so we'll go with the Game of Thrones characters. So I just wanted to acknowledge him because he was in the first season too, but it's Ian Glenn, who is a Scottish actor, and he played Jorah from Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
who was Khaleesi's like right-hand man, right?
Yeah, and I always love seeing a Thrones alum out in the wild.
Yeah.
And I found his character very endearing, and more so than the first season because we'll talk about it a little bit later on. But like he's got this like sense of haunt and dread about him, so I kind of found his character to become a lot more like tantalizing to the deductive mind.
Yeah, and I really liked his character in this season. But of course I saw him and I was like, I said to my husband, that's Jorah from Game of Thrones, right? And then literally probably 5 episodes later, he's like, hey, that's Jorah. And I was like, I told you that.
I told
and he's
you
like,
that.
no, you didn't. It's like, I would have remembered. And I'm like, I definitely, I'm going to take credit for telling you that. And he's coming up with it as if he was the one.
Not me.
The worst. And then, so Walker in Mechanical.
I got nothing on that. I got nothing on that.
So, okay, so I can't. So her character in Ted Lasso was Deborah Welton, which does not ring a bell for me. I would have to look into what character she was in Ted Lasso. But in
that was
Succession,
Rebecca's last name, wasn't it?
Deborah. Oh, was she Rebecca's mom?
I guess. I mean, she would be the right age, but I don't remember Rebecca's mom. But that's definitely Rebecca's last name.
Oh, maybe. And yeah, I think she might have been in like 3 episodes or something like that when I looked. So I wasn't familiar, but I was like, Ted Lasso. Oh, wow. Crazy. That was our show.
Yeah.
Like, but I know you would remember her from Succession. So she is Caroline, which if you're thinking of the name, you're probably like, that doesn't ring a bell either.
No.
But she was the kids, Roman, Shiv's mother. Like, they're Logan's ex-wife.
Their biological mother, yeah.
Remember, she gets remarried. No. She goes to when they go to Shiv's wedding.
Was she in the episodes where they were at that like castle?
Yes.
Okay.
She's British, and so she has a British accent in the show, and she's married to Logan, who is British or Scottish or whatever he is.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't picture her face in the show, but I know those episodes, like because the only kind of time in Succession where that reunion was kind of felt, I know, was when they were at that castle for
and
wedding,
also it's a very stark difference. So I could see if someone didn't recognize her, because think of it, she's Caroline in Succession, she's like super rich. And then when she's in when she plays Walker, she's got her, you know,
Ratty.
graying dark hair and like braids, like she's very like dressed down. So yeah, stark difference.
The
So
underling of society compared to
literally.
the aristocrat.
So speaking of the underlings of society, so we have quite a few storylines going on. You know, there's mechanical, then there's the people up top, you know, Bernard and the judges and judicial, is that what they call it? Yeah, the
Yeah.
judicial department. So yeah,
I was quite funny because they're all in black, like a judge's black robes kind of deal.
literally, yeah. So, you know, you have all these different kind of factions of people. There's what, 200 floors in the silo or something like that. So yeah, you have a lot of you know, what floor you live on is kind of like equivalent to your worth. So we have all these different stories going on, all these plans, you know, especially in this season. It's all about trying to, you know, Knox's crew. That's a big
Yeah.
chunk of this season is his team getting together and trying to plan things out. And then you have Juliette's side with her with Solo in the other silo. Then you have Sheriff Billings and what's going on with him. You have Sims and Bernard and everyone up top. So, I mean, there's a lot of different things going on. There's plans being hatched. Was there a storyline or two or like a little arc that was most compelling or interesting to you?
I love Sims's arc. I find him fascinating, and I have to give a hat tip to Common because I don't, you don't expect someone from a non-acting world to come in and be be very credible right off the bat. There's not. I know he's done stuff before this show, but it's certainly not been in great quantity.
Mm.
Uh, but he, for over the course of both seasons, the way he portrayed a depth to Sims was very, very believable to me, and he kind of reminded me of that employee in corporate America that is very staunch, very loyal, works
Mm.
hard, and then at the end when it's time for him to get ahead, the boss has some little moment that tweaked them in the wrong way, and it's like, oh no, screw you, I'm going with this person instead.
Yeah.
When like that's kind of I kind of, I don't know, maybe that says something about my life, I don't know, but like that kind of gave me uh, a realistic a tie to reality as far as the way Sims is built.
Yeah, no, I think everyone can relate to that. It's like with him not being Bernard's shadow, it's like he just wanted so desperately to be his shadow, and Bernard's like, "Oh, I need a shadow, not you though." You know,
Yeah,
it's just
but at the same time, he says, "But I still need you, so I'm gonna point you to judge instead." So it's almost kind of like a backhanded, like, "I'll give you this promotion, but it's not the one you wanted." So it's kind of like a backhanded compliment of sorts.
yeah, they just have a very odd, like contentious kind of relationship, but it's like neither wants to acknowledge it.
Hmm. Yeah, it like, and neither one of them. Well, no, I mean Bernard does, but Sims, it's kind of like you could tell he's an alpha, but he's kind of like a dormant alpha. Like
Mm.
he's no like he swings a big stick, but he kind of like keeps it down. He kind of keeps it down behind him, as opposed to Bernard is like an iron fist at all times.
Yeah, I think Sims is like he'll kind of play it cool and be quiet for a while so he can pick up on what's going on and until he can figure out like his next move. So I think he's yeah, he is kind of a low key leader.
Yeah, so, like Sims will puts his enforcement out with the other like to show that he's the boss to this caste system they have. But not so much amongst his peers and superiors. Whereas Bernard is like he kind of knows, like he kind of likes the fact that he's feared in their minds, but he doesn't have to show it, and he's more forward with that attitude and that mentality with everyone in the up top.
Mm. Yeah, and I mean I thought that that was an interesting arc is not only Sims trying to I mean I guess he wants to save the silo. That's kind of like he wants to do the right thing,
Hmm.
and it's very much like a partnership with his wife, Camille, who as we find
Yeah,
out was a former not a cop, but what was she like, what do they call that
I thought she was
position?
in IT. I thought she had come from IT.
Like a night guard or something like that.
A raider? The Raiders?
Raider. Yes, she's a former raider. But yes, Camille was, and I wasn't even close, like night guard, raider. All I can picture is like, with like the little riots that went on and stuff, the people that had like I think they had little sticks, didn't they? Like a nightstick and
Yeah.
those like shield things, like the glass shields or whatever. That's all I could
Oh
picture in
yeah.
my mind, and I'm like, night
They're like
guard, night
riot
guard.
gear. Yeah, they're all decked out in riot gear.
Yeah, riot gear. So just the fact that Camille would take it upon herself to, you know, not only to just like protect her family, what was that whole scene where who was that in her home that was like threatening to kill her son if she didn't behave? Was that Juliette? Was that the first season?
Oh,
When was that?
that had to have been the first season. Because the only scene like that I remember from this season was at the end when Sims came into Lucas Kyle's house. Um, which
Yeah,
is
that's
when
what.
he was talking to his mother.
Maybe it was the
But
first season, but just the strength she showed, like to not lose her shit when like someone's like literally in her
yeah,
home threatening her and her kid. Like she's pretty fearless in that sense, and I don't know if that comes from being a raider, but
probably.
and it's also too just in the last few episodes at the end of the season, it was always her and Sims, looking into each other's eyes, being like, "What are we gonna do? Oh, let's do," like kind of making a plan together. You know what I mean? And then they're like, "Let's go into the vault," and then it didn't work out so easily because they were like, "Camille, you stay," and Sims, bye, take your son. Like she's the only one that can go in the vault.
Yeah, that was we'll get to it later on, but that was something that really like stuck out in my head as a whoa,
Hmm.
because it was like wait, why is she so
Why?
important to know the deep dark dirty secrets of this place? And Sims, who's like actually begging and pleading to know something, is like, no, go along, boy.
Yeah. And
Ironically enough, with your boy, take your child.
with your boy, yeah. And so we mentioned Billings earlier. So I do think there was sort of a parallel storyline with Billings too. Billings is kind of you called it being black pilled, but he's slowly starting to realize the truth that like what he's been told and what he's learned has been a lie, and
Hmm.
I think like his wife, which I can't remember her name, but she's always got the baby with
Kathleen, I
her.
think. Kathleen.
Kathleen, there you go. So he and Kathleen are very much a partnership too, like Sims and Camille, where she really, when she kind of finds out that he's found out everything's a lie, and she's like, why didn't you tell me about these things? She wants to help and she wants to save people, and they're they're concerned with doing the right thing and
She's
being
a
genuine. So
she's a very connected character in this because at one point she has an interaction with Dr. Nichols.
mm,
I feel like she talks to somebody else as well. I don't remember if it was Lucas Kyle or somebody else. Like there's different moments throughout the season where she's having a relationship with another character trying to figure this out, or maybe trying to figure out what's wrong with her husband.
Yeah, she's just a very kind, helpful, like selfless person. She's trying to help other people and she's running around with her baby in a
All the
blanket
yeah.
like but yeah, I do Billings too. I always was just like this is a good guy, but like I think he's naive and everything, but the more that I think he's willing to listen about the ways that they've been lied to about all these things, he's a little more open to seeing the truth.
I think it's a lot because, and it's funny how you notice this is the case with every single person that holds the sheriff's office. Like,
Yeah.
they seem to notice something that, like, something doesn't seem right. And he's the first one. There's the original sheriff, and then there's Juliette, and then there's him. He's the first one that's kind of resistant to the veil being pulled off.
Yeah.
Like, throughout the season, it's kind of like a build up to him still being aligned with Bernard and the way of the silo. I forgot what they called the book. With a P. The pact.
The pact, yeah.
Yeah, like he's still very committed to the ways of the pact, and then as it goes along towards the end, he becomes more and more aligned with Knox and his crew, and then all of a sudden he's like full on, tinfoil hat theory, and he's helping trying to burn this place to the ground.
Yeah, and I think the Billings character is someone that I think if we're not a Billings, we know of a Billings. Like it's crazy that this is a book series, by the way. So I think it's a series of 3 books, and from what I've heard, the first 2 seasons of the show follow the first book, apparently.
Oh,
But I mean, I don't know when the books were written, but it does seem strangely appropriate that this show, came out. I think the first season was 2022, right? So it came out after COVID in a time where people are kind of starting to question things that they've heard, and
yeah.
so it's just an interesting parallel to kind of what we're all experiencing now and in the last 4 or 5 years.
I absolutely think there's a parallel to real life in this show of
Mm-hmm.
a don't trust your institutions mindset.
Yes. Yeah, and that's how they that's kind of how they pin Bernard and the people up top against everyone else, the little old people.
Cast him as an old white man with white hair. Gee, can't think of where that came from.
Yeah. And speaking of an old white man, Dr. Nichols, I really liked his storyline this season, and I liked how there was that whole there was that whole scene where he was hiding with Juliette in like the maternity ward or the where all the babies were, and he got to a point where he's really trying to help the cause because. And then we see that scene where he actually removes the birth control that he's not really supposed to remove. Like he's been pretending all these years that he's removed it and that's what he's been told to do. And I think he feels a lot of guilt, and he's a very layered character because he's just done what he's been told all these years. He feels an immense amount of guilt for it. And then we see, later in the season that he like gives his life for it. And he doesn't mind doing that.
And I think it is guilt, and guilt driven from the fact that he's still under the impression that Juliet's dead. Until the very, very end, and that kind of, even though he knows or feels that she's still alive, he still feels some responsibility to her not being there.
Yes.
So, like, there is that very heavy sense of guilt on him for his actions. And then he also, like, with the birth control thing, he very much feels like he's betrayed his Hippocratic oath
Mm-hmm.
as a physician. So that is part of the conflict of Dr. Nichols that is a very intriguing arc character development, but also a very sad one by the end
Yeah.
because he feels like the only way he can gain resolution for this is by sacrificing himself.
Yeah, and it like that I like that moment with the what's the other cop's name?
Hank.
Hank, yeah, where he's like, are you, I mean, this Hank is probably thinking like, I am, not a father, like I can just do this. And Dr. Nichols is like, no, like
Yeah.
I'm doing this. And
Yeah.
they kind of, Hank is like, are you sure? Like, I could do it. And Dr. Nichols is like, no, like this is going to be me this time.
Yeah, he's almost pleading him to let him be
Yeah.
because you're right. He's probably thinking like, I'm not the sheriff. I don't have a family. Like I'm a crumb bum. Just let me fall. Let me fall in the grenade here.
Right, and that so it blows up the entire staircase, and so Dr. Nichols kind of did his part to help the cause in that moment.
And I'm sure that's going to be quite the shock value whenever Juliet is reunited with
Uh,
the people in her silo, and she finds this out. I feel like that, and because she is that, like he's part of the reason why she's trying to get back. She's trying to save her father. That's the only family she has, because George, I think, is long gone, right? Um, so
mm,
that's a big reason why she's trying to get back at all, and she's gonna come back and realize that she doesn't have a family to come back to.
right. And speaking of, while Juliet's away from her family in the other silo, she sort of strikes up this little friendship with Solo or Jimmy or whatever we want to call him. So, I mean, he's spent a huge chunk of his life by himself in that vault. So you have to feel bad for him. Like it's a wonder he's not mute, from years of not talking to anyone. And he's very anxious. He's very nervous. Like he's very socially awkward. All the things. And I mean that was interesting to see too. Like his arc with giving that little bit of control and opening himself up just a little bit enough to be friends with Juliet and to show that he cares for her and that he wants her to stay, and he wants to help her. And like there was that moment where he kind of like touches her on the shoulder, and it was just a very small gesture, but it was something like that took a lot because he's been so isolated, like he hasn't had any contact with people, and every little gesture is just took a lot to muster up because it's just not what he's used to.
Considering the fact that he is very resistant to letting her in, to having a friendship, having a relationship with her. He's very resistant to that. He thinks like it's his purpose to stay in the vault and protect the silo, or at least what's left of the silo. So he's very resistant to letting her into his world. And then it's almost, you could see it's almost painful for him when he learns that she's leaving.
But it's funny too because symbolically he has a hard time letting her in. It just because he's kind of been like a caged animal. He's been shut away by himself, and now he's all of a sudden with people. It's like he doesn't know how to act. He doesn't know how to feel. And so it's a symbolic thing of like, opening up to someone emotionally, but it's also literal opening up because he doesn't want her to come into the vault. He's like, I'll give these things to you, but I will not let you come in here. Like, I'm not going to tell you what the code is, all of this stuff. And he's kind of been, he was just a little boy. So he was told, you protect that vault, with your life, basically. So yeah, I mean, it's understandable given what he's gone through and how he spent years there. But yeah, it was sort of sad to, see his reluctance to be with people and to see see the difficulties he has, but even just him walking around, his parents' apartment or parents' house, and just kind of sounding like a child as he's walking around. But it's sweet how Juliette she's kind of like a big sister to him, right? Like, I wouldn't say she talks down to him, because that's not true. She's very supportive and patient with him, but yeah,
No,
she
she's
kind of
trying.
consoles him, right? Like, kind of comforts him, or tries to be kind of comforting, like a big sister.
Yeah, she's trying to have almost a nurturing relationship with him.
Yes.
Now, it may be because she needs information from him, so maybe it's a little
Right.
bit self-fulfilling. Um, but she's still like trying to get that information out of him in a very nurturing, calming role.
I think she kind of understands what he needs, and obviously, she has to get the information, so she understands how she needs to get the information, but she feels bad like tricking him, so she tries to
No,
get it as
yeah,
genuinely as she can.
she's still trying to be empathetic.
Right.
And to me, the whole solo thing, this is another thing that we could even apply to a real life COVID parallel, is the fact that everyone was locked up and couldn't leave your
Mm,
home. Obviously you couldn't talk to anybody virtual, locked up in the vault, but that's besides the point.
yeah.
So like, trying to get him out of the vault to interact with people and like develop a relationship to get this information that she needed is kind of like people coming out of isolation and being back out in the world and interacting with other humans.
Mm, yeah. And yeah, I mean, we all were socially awkward, and yeah, it was, you know, 2 weeks to flatten the curve or whatever it was. So it
Yeah,
wasn't years and years and years, but we all felt pretty socially awkward and damaged about it. And it's like, when you would hang out with someone, like with a mask on, by the way, the whole time, like, you'd go home and just be exhausted from the littlest social interaction. It was amazing.
yeah. Well, you can't get a lot of oxygen through the mask, so maybe we're just O2 deprived.
Yes, that's what I'm gonna go with. So you mentioned a moment that kind of shocked you earlier. What were the big things that, or like the big reveals that shocked you this season?
The big one was the one we touched on a little bit before. It was Dr. Nichols' sacrifice. They find this detonator, and I don't know whether this was the plan, because of course Walker had that kind of body language with Knox, where
Right.
she was trying to tell him that Bernard's got this surveillance system put in. But so I don't know if like the detonator not being there was part of the plan, or that was Bernard having knowledge of their plan, so he sent someone out to sabotage it. But when they see that the detonator is not there, and they're like, "Oh no, what do we do?" And Hank's saying, I'm just a nobody here. Let me fall in the grave." But Dr. Nichols has that sense of guilt between his relationship with Juliette, his Hippocratic oath, and he's like, "No, I need to do this to get some resolution." So that was a little bit of shock value, because I thought that he would have been on a mission to be able to see his daughter again with the knowledge that she's likely still alive.
Yeah, I think what that main sacrifice was maybe about was sort of a him feeling regret or guilt for the father that he was. I feel like he probably felt like, oh, I could have done better and I should have done better. And so in his mind, it was kind of like, you know what, like, this is the way that I make it right.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's like there's no way to write this path without falling on the sword, because
Mm,
my actions were so far betraying of what I should have been standing for.
yeah. And I think I was like, no, he's not gonna. No, I don't think. No. And then like the explosion goes off, and you're like, oh god,
And then,
like,
then there was that awkward pause where Walker's counting to Bernard and just like 5, 4, 3, 2, and
oh
nothing
yeah,
happens.
yeah,
And he's sitting there laughing at it. It's like, what was that supposed to be? And then all of a sudden, was it Amundsen that walks up to the room? It's like, sir, we've got a
yeah,
problem, and the explosion happens anyway.
yeah. That was a
Which, by the way, symbolism. How the hell did she have all the sheriff badges?
I don't know.
I feel like that was such a symbolic moment to dump all the sheriff badges in his office, since whoever held the sheriff position is the one that kind of fought to have this tinfoil hat theory of what the silo was really about. So like I felt like there was a symbolic meaning of that, but at the same time I don't know how Walker of all people would have gotten them all.
No, there were a few things that like I don't know if I was paying close attention with the detonator thing. We were like, what is that thing that fell on the ground? Like, what is that? Like, we were, both watching the TV. Like, there were some little things that maybe we just didn't pick up on or something. I honestly don't know how she got all those badges. Like, I can't explain it. I literally do
Um,
not know.
the other one I thought was when Lucas Kyle he figures out this code thing,
Mm,
and it's apparent I don't think it's in a vault, but it's hidden inside whatever that artificial intelligence pillar is. Like
yeah.
hidden inside that, and he goes up to Bernard, and he's like, I'm telling you, but like I have to be careful because if it hears us, that'll be the end of the silo or whatever. And like as soon as he like leans into Bernard and he tells him what it is, and it's just like the look of shock, like my whole life is a lie on Bernard, and Lucas
Mm,
Kyle leaves, and like and after that, of course, he goes up to Sims. He gives him his code, his access code to that machine, the server machine, um, and that of course sets up the final scene with Juliette and Bernard, where he's trying to get out. He's trying to get to the outside. I'm like,
mm.
just let me see freedom one time, because my whole life has been a lie, and if I have to put a bullet in my head because the poison will kill me, it is what it is. I just want to be out there and see freedom once.
Yeah, and I that was some superb acting from Tim Robbins. The moment that Lucas whispers to him, and Sims is like, "What did he say to you? Tell me what he said." Like he
Yeah,
just
yep.
had this like you could tell that whatever he heard like changed him, and so that was a shocking reveal. I Another moment with Bernard that shocked me was the whole thing with Bernard and Judge Meadows, where he poisoned her. Remember how she was asking to go to clean and or to go out, and so she's like asking about, oh, do you have a suit ready for me or whatever? And he's like,
Yeah,
oh yeah, I'll bring it by or something, just completely lying to her. And then she figures out that it was the mushrooms that he cooked her, he poisoned her. So, and this is somebody that he was basically in love with, but
yeah,
he says he had to do it. And like Sims, I forget, but it was he blamed Sims for it. It was like basically, because of you I had to kill the woman I loved. Like, so I think that's obviously one reason he resents Sims. But I mean, we don't really, they had a strange relationship before that also, so it's not really the thing that broke their relationship.
yeah. I kind of got a bit of romantic energy from between Meadows and Bernard as well.
Yeah.
Um, and I almost kind of feel like maybe that's his guilt as far as wanting to go outside at the end when the veil is off for him, because
Mm,
now he almost feels a similar sense of guilt that Dr. Nichols feels with Juliet. He's probably feeling the same sort of guilt, like it doesn't matter if Sims was the one that made me feel like I had to do this. I still did it, and I still love this woman, and she's gone now, and I need to do something to break myself away from this guilt.
Yeah. Well, just I mean, I can't imagine, having to do something like that for someone you even remotely cared for. I mean, like talk about a friend or acquaintance or colleague, but like, someone with that importance in your life to feel like you're kind of backed into a corner and that's what you have to do, pretty crazy. And like the way that she realized it was really sad.
Oh yeah,
Like, oh, you poisoned me, didn't you? Or like you're trying to kill me.
yeah. Especially as because she kept asking, like, just give me the suit, let me go outside. So like she was very persistent about it.
Yeah, and I think she kind of knew, deep down, like that's what was going on. Um so I mean, I guess one other shocking moment, and we'll end with this, is there were a couple solo shocking moments. First when we find out that he's not solo after all. He's kind of taken on this identity of this guy. Juliette finds a picture, and so she's like, "You're not solo," and he kind of like ignores her and is like, "Oh, like what are you talking about?" And he just like keeps talking, and then so there's this whole moment where we figure out that he is not who he says he is, but we don't know why. We think it's kind of a more nefarious thing. And then, they kind of make him look shady for a little while. And then we find out later in the season that he was the son of the leader of IT. And he literally
Was that Salvador Quinn? Was that Salvador Quinn?
Oh, you know what? I don't know.
Salvador Quinn kept being referred to, but I couldn't put something together to make the connection that he was Solo's
Well,
father.
I thought that Salvador Quinn lived like 130 years before or something.
Yeah, okay.
So like the people were descendants of him, the
Mhm.
people that they found. But yeah, I guess he was the son of the IT guy and like literally sees his dad be killed and right in front of him, and literally the last thing his dad says is like, keep the vault on lock.
Yeah.
And so then you have that whole moment where he's like crying like a child, and Juliet's like, you were just a child, like you didn't know that, and you didn't know any better. You were just doing what your dad told you. Like he's still like, you really see how he just has the mind of a child.
Oh yeah, because like you said, he was given this instruction by his father as a child or a very young adult to guard the vault and stay in there. So
Mm,
this is his kind of sole purpose in life. This is the last thing he was told to accomplish.
mm.
So he's got some intrinsic loyalty to it.
Yeah, and that was kind of heartbreaking, but it was a little bit of a reveal each time because they were trying to make him look bad, and then we find out that it's for that reason. It's for like a heartbreaking reason. It's not because he's being sneaky or trying to be manipulative or anything.
No, it was a touch of brevity though to find out why he's called Solo. He was like at a party or something. And it's like, oh, you're going. It's like, or who? It's like you're going solo, or who are you with, or who are you with? Or it's like, oh, I'm solo. And it's like, oh, okay, it's solo. You're solo now.
Yeah. It was I can't call him Jimmy. I feel like I want to call him Solo because he just is a solo now.
Oh, Jimmy is Jason Segel from Shrinking.
Oh, true. Yeah, that's true. So we actually did find out before the show even ended, this was a week or so ago, that the show was renewed for not just season 3, but also season 4, which will be its last. There are 3 books. I mentioned the first 2 seasons of the show are the first book. So we're going to get the second and third book. So what direction do you see the show going next season?
Um, well, I did not know this was an adaptation. It makes sense though. It kind of feels
Hmm.
like it would be an adaptation of a book. I enjoy the post-apocalyptic sense of the show. I felt like the pacing was much more enjoyable in season 1. This one felt like kind
Yes.
of a slow burn, until the last 2 or 3 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Really until we got to that whole resolution about Solo's identity, that's when things really started to pick up. So I feel like even though that was kind of a big reveal, I feel like that's kind of closed a little bit. Like you could see that just they've kind of got a new family unit, for lack of a better word, over there,
Yeah.
and that could just kind of go off on its own. Um, I feel like there wasn't much of a Juliette arc in this season past how it pertained to the whole Solo stuff.
Mm.
And the rebellion kind of climaxing with destroying the generator, and then Juliette and Bernard having this fall in this into this incinerator type of room. That's obviously a big cliffhanger because are they alive? Is one of them alive? Are they gonna come out horribly burned and incapacitated? And these are like two major characters in the show. So
Well,
and
she my husband was saying she had a fireproof suit apparently, and I missed
oh, that's
whatever.
why it was red. That's why hers was red.
I don't know. He said hers was fireproof, but I guess we can assume that Juliette is alive and that Bernard is dead,
Mhm.
possibly. But it's like he's the mayor, so what now?
Yeah.
If
Well, they're also destroying that silo, so maybe the whole power structure of this thing doesn't even matter anymore.
yeah, I who knows? But so yeah, I think that's going to be a big question as to whether they're alive or what the deal is. Are we going to get more time flashbacks, like at the end with the Pez dispenser reveal that the Georgian congressman gives to the reporter? Why is Camilla the only one who can stay in the vault, not Sims or his son?
Yeah.
I mean, I would hope we see Solo again, or maybe Juliette will venture back to the silo, or maybe she'll go back or she'll try to venture out to explore other silos. I mean, we can assume that maybe they won't stay in this silo forever.
Well, she told them, she put the sign on the window after she cleaned it, said, it's not
Yes.
safe out here. So,
For them to go outside, but well, I mean, if her suit is she has a fireproof suit, but is it going to be usable again? Like if she does want to go out somewhere? I don't know.
yeah, kind of use it once and it's burned. No pun intended. But yeah, and the Camille thing, I do want to know, like, why her? Why did Sims have to leave? It's kind of like why she's so special type of thing. So I'm curious about that, but I'm very curious about the final scene because they set up the flashback like this is before whatever the apocalyptic event was.
Like the before times.
Yeah, but the Pez dispenser had this feeling like it was a taboo relic. The relics that the Bernard outlaws because they're a callback to the before times. It'll make people question the hierarchy in the silo. So her kind of looking at it, that kind of reminded me, that kind of had the same feeling like this is a taboo thing. This is a relic. And that makes me question the timing of when that flashback was.
Yeah, I kind of feel like it's like current times, to be honest. Like the time we're in now.
No, it did feel like that, but like if it's the times now, there should be nothing taboo about a Pez dispenser. You're almost like, what? Why the hell is this guy giving me a Pez dispenser? But at the same time, it's just a Pez dispenser. It's not like something mysterious. You know what I mean?
I know, it's kind of funny just because it's something that's so unassuming and not dangerous at all. So
Yeah.
it is kind of comical. So yeah, I mean, hopefully we get some more answers. I feel like it's going to be kind of, well, I still think you haven't seen Lost, right? So you don't get this reference, but what Lost started doing in the, subsequent seasons is it started doing a lot of flashbacks. It started doing flash forwards. So definitely think we'll get more flashbacks. I don't know about flash forwards, but I could see the flashbacks of the before time kind of being there to give us more answers about what the hell happened.
Yeah.
So if you enjoy listening to our show, we would appreciate it if you gave us a 5-star review and let us know what you think of each episode. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to email us at redandredrealreviews@gmail.com. Also, make sure to follow along with us on Instagram and TikTok, as long as TikTok is around, of course.
Yeah.
Binge the Ginge. No dots between the words for TikTok, with dots between the words for Instagram. He is Nutmeg, the number 2 Palmetto. As always, you can find video episodes on YouTube and Rumble and stream us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. For the next episode, we're doing something we haven't done in a while, which is discussing a movie. So we'll be watching You Are Cordially Invited on Amazon Prime with Reese Witherspoon and Will Ferrell. So that should be interesting. I think it's their first time working together in a movie. So people are interested to see what that's going to look like. Is it going to be good? Is it going to be a hot dumpster fire? We don't know. So
First time for them working together, first movie for us in a while, and first Prime for us in a while.
yeah, so it's the first of a few things. So check that out when it releases on January 30th, and then join in to our discussion soon after that. Until the next real review, Red and Red signing out.
In less than an hour, aircraft from here will join others from around the world.
Don't act so surprised, Your Highness.
Hey guys, you ready to let the dogs out?
What? Do what?
No. Why not? Do. Or do not.
Because I don't want no scrubs.
Let the dogs out, you know, like, who let the dogs out? Who?
Who brought this guy along?
I can go slow ahead. Come on down and chump some of this shit.
One more thing. Do me a favor. Don't go chasing waterfalls.
Mankind, that word should have new meaning for all of us today.
You're gonna need a bigger boat. Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes?
I'll take care, all right? None but love for you. None but love for you.
Have any clue what's about to happen to him?
Oh, not a chance in hell. Good night.
Reese! Smile, you son of a... You did it. You crazy son of a bitch, you did it. It's not funny anymore.
TLC references. Still nothing. I swear to you.
But as the day when the world declared in one voice, we will not go quietly into the night. We will not vanish without a fight. We're going to live on. We're going to survive. Today, we celebrate our Independence Day.